We're live.
Good morning, folks. Aaron Dorr here, Chris Dorr here with the American Firearms Association. You know, Chris, if you're a Senate Republican today in America, you've got kind of a pretty easy job. I think you wake up every day, you put your clothes on, you get some breakfast, and you go down to the Congress and you fight like hell to stop everything that Joe Biden's handlers are trying to make happen. You don't have to do a whole lot. We're just trying to stop gun control, stop all of the terrible agenda coming out of the House, and hold the line until the midterms. That's it. Hold the line, stop all the gun control, and just and wait till we the people get in the ballot box and take control back from these America-hating psychos who currently run our Congress. But that's not what happened last night. It's not what happened last night. So, folks, get on in this broadcast. We have a really terrible update for you, frankly, on what happened last night in the Senate as 14 Republican rhino backstabbing traitors crossed over party lines, and they gave the votes to Joe Biden's handlers because Joe Biden does not run the White House. Make no mistake. They gave the votes to Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer to destroy the filibuster last night. We're going to break that down in this video here today, guys, so you know what's going on. And the question is, what did your Republican senator do if you have a Republican in D.C.? Because Mark says in the comments, I'm sick and tired of Republicans, of liberals attacking our gun rights. The key here, Mark, is that they were aided last night by the Republicans. This is not just Chuck Schumer now who was attacking our freedoms. So we're going to break down what happened last night. Post your questions in the comment section, guys, and we'll answer any questions that we have. Mark is enjoying constitutional carry in Iowa. Doggone right you are. You know, Chris, we talked about this a lot in the last couple of videos we've done here. Whatever else they do in D.C. today, the job of Senate Republicans is simply to not give in, to not make any deals, and to not betray. It's just not that hard. In the minority, it's just not that hard. Just don't agree to tyranny. Just don't agree to anything that's going to harm our gun rights or anything else. All they have to do is nothing. Just dig in your heels and fight.
Exactly. When Joe Biden is in the White House, whether he got there legitimately or not, and when Nancy Pelosi controls the House of Representatives, they have one job, and that is to resist. I mean, it's the Democrats did this better than anybody, right? When President Trump was president, and we controlled everything in those first 2 years, all they did was resist. They fought and fought and fought. They did trumped up Russian collusion stuff. All we want Republicans to do in the United States Senate right now is to resist. Simply vote no on these things. Make the Democrats choke on everything.
And call it out. I mean, who does this right now better than anybody else in the entire Congress is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Every single thing that comes up for a vote, every single piece of freedom shredding garbage that's coming up for a vote, she's all over Facebook, she's all over the House floor railing against these bills. She tells the entire country this is what's going on, and I say hell no, and I will not be a part of this. And she rallies so many people to the cause of freedom because she's absolutely, no matter what, a no vote on any bill that's going to attack our freedoms. Let's be honest, every single bill passing the Congress right now is designed to attack our freedoms.
And unless there's some of those idiots out there like, oh, I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene because she never gets anything done. First of all, it's the dumbest thing you could possibly think. And second of all, the reason why is because Nancy Pelosi controls what bills are passing through the House right now. Of course, she doesn't get anything done legislatively. She gets everything done when it comes to resisting and fighting back. And that's exactly what the U.S. Senate Republicans, how many of them? 14?
Yeah, 14. We're going to give you guys a list here momentarily. But this is like the Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12 video. You had one job. You had one job.
Yeah.
Just oppose everything, hold the line, and buy time for the American people to get to the ballot box in November and take control back from these America-hating psychopaths, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. That's it. And so that's all they had to do. And the tool that we have that's helping us stop all of this crap more than anything else right now is the filibuster. And Chris, I had to Google. I didn't even know how long it had been in effect. I had to Google it to find out. But since 1837, that's a long time. I'm not a math major, but to me, that's a dang long time. Since 1837, we've had the filibuster in the Senate. And what it says is, in a nutshell, in the House, a simple majority can pass legislation. Half the chamber plus one vote, that's 218 members, can pass anything they want to pass. In the Senate, they have to have 60 out of 100, far more than 51, 60 out of 100 to move major legislation. And that's why, even though Schumer is in charge right now with 50 votes and Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker, this is the main reason that we've been able to stop H.R. 8, S 736, all the gun control agenda in D.C. because, well, they may, and they may not, to be honest, they may not have all 50 votes. They may not have all 50 votes, but if they did, they do not have the 60 that they need to proceed because the filibuster requires 60 votes to proceed. And so what's that?
To overcome.
Yeah, well, just to put any bill on the floor for a vote, they have to have 60 votes to get past debate and on to a vote. And so that's how we have stopped not just gun control, but almost all of Biden's agenda over the last, 12 months now that he's been in the White House. Because, and the thing is that nobody messes with the filibuster, because even if you're in the majority party, you know you're going to be in the minority very shortly. That's just the nature of politics in Washington, D.C. And so,
thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Yes. And so for all these years, even when the Democrats had the majority back in the old days under Harry Reid, they always were trying to protect the filibuster. The Republicans under Trump always trying to guard the filibuster because they knew that someday they'd be in the minority, and the filibuster is what protects our freedoms from an out-of-control majority party. And so nobody screws with this except for last night. 14 Senate Republicans gave Schumer the votes he had to have. And here's the way they're coaching this now: to temporarily suspend the filibuster. We temporarily suspended the filibuster. And the issue was on the debt ceiling. And, just, I mean,
that is the dumb. I mean, just think about this for a minute when it comes to political feasance. This is political malfeasance. But all they had to do was sit there and say, no, sorry, you're not going to get our votes. And they would have brought the entire Democrat-run left-wing government to a screeching halt.
Yep. And
the backlash for that by the American people would have gone straight to the freaking Democrats. Instead, somebody just put a comment here in the comments section. They said every year they have to raise the debt ceiling. They get loans to pay interest on other loans and just spends more and more and more. Yeah, all they had to do was to stop this entire charade. Was do nothing. They just had to just sit there and not give their consent. Anytime you aid and abet the enemy, you become the enemy.
Yeah, it's just, again, it should be enough. Let's take Joni Ernst from Iowa, our home state of Iowa, Chris. Joni Ernst, you and I know Joni very well. You worked on the Senate floor in Iowa alongside of her for a while. We know Joni personally and know her very well. Everyone in Iowa remembers her ads, how she walked to school with the bread bag liners in her boots to keep her feet warm. I mean, here is a person who should appreciate a buck, who should appreciate fiscal sanity, who should appreciate the fact that we are destroying our economy and, by extension, destroying our children's future by running up what's now a $28.3 trillion deficit. So it should have been enough for Joni Ernst and all the rest of these 14 rhinos. We're going to give their names here in a moment. It should have been enough to vote no just on the policy about not wanting to blow our budget deficit to hell and gone again. If that wasn't enough, they should have, for simply political self-interest, said, no, we're not going to give Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden what they want. We're going to hold the line, and we're going to say no, because that's all they have to do. As you said, just do your job and do nothing. But instead, last night, we have 14 Senate Republicans who voted to attack the filibuster, and then by extension, and we're about to get to the punch here, that by extension, attacking our gun rights. The 14 senators, we mentioned Joni Ernst in indefensible behavior. John Thune, red flag John Thune from South Dakota. Mitch McConnell, the turtle man. What's that?
And just like when you folks are listening to this stuff, don't just think of the U.S. senator themselves. If you've traveled around a little bit, think of the state that they represent, and particularly like John Thune from South Dakota. I grew up like 30 miles from we both grew up 30 miles from the South Dakota border. We've driven through there many times. We've paved roads in Mitchell, South Dakota. Aaron and I did for a whole summer. These people don't want their U.S. senators aiding and abetting the radical left Democrats of today. So, I mean, so when you think of this list, think of the people that they're stabbing knives into their backs. Keep going.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, that's exactly right. Because this is not just dry policy. This is destroying our country.
Right.
And they're being aided by the Republicans now, who tell us how tough they are. Look, they can't even be tough in the minority. And what I mean by that is in the majority, there's a lot of temptation to compromise. You have all the power. You can move agenda items. In the minority, ordinarily, you got big brass ones because all you have to do is just oppose the majority. Even now in the minority, we couldn't even get support from John Thune out of South Dakota. Mitch McConnell, the turtle man from Kentucky. Everyone knows Mitch McConnell is going to be the first one to let twist in the breeze. John Barrasso, Wyoming. We have worked Wyoming politics for years. I know every gun owner in the state almost because the whole state is comprised of gun owners. There's not a single person in Wyoming who, except for Liz Cheney, who's not a Wyoming resident, who wanted John Barrasso to vote to raise the debt limit. Roger Wicker, Mississippi. Shelley Moore from West Virginia. Susan Collins, nasty woman. Susan Collins from Maine. Roy Blunt, Missouri. We have done more gun politics in Missouri than anybody in the country over the last 5-6 years, and we know everybody who's worth knowing in the legislature down there. Nobody in Missouri wanted Roy Blunt to side with Chuck Schumer and raise the debt limit. Nobody in Missouri. Tom Tillis, North Carolina. Lisa Murkowski.
Red flag Tom.
Red flag Tom again. Lisa Murkowski, one of the worst in the Senate right now, Alaska. Richard Burr, another one from North Carolina. It's both North Carolina Republicans
Losers.
now. Joni Ernst,
Richard Burr's getting out.
Yeah, John Cornyn. Fix Nix John. Mental health, gun control, John Cornyn from Texas. Mitt Romney stabbed Trump in the back, and he stabbed us in the back again last night. And finally, Christopher's favorite from Ohio, Rob Portman. These 14 Republicans did this. They voted to, again, temporarily weaken the filibuster. And we're going to discuss here in a moment what that means when it comes to your gun rights. I just want to mention, though, before we get into that, let's not just assume, that the other, was it 36?
Yeah, something like that.
Republicans who did not vote for this, that they all were on the right side. I can assure you right now, for example, Chuck Grassley, going back to Iowa, the man is up for re-election. He voted for the infrastructure bill a couple months ago. He voted for all kinds of fiscal insanity this year in Iowa, this year on behalf of Iowans, and he's up for re-election. So I can assure you that someone like Chuck Grassley, if he was not up for re-election, would be far more inclined to support this trash. So don't think just because your senator's name is not on this list that your guy or your gal is a champion for freedom.
Lindsey Graham, Steve, Marco Rubio. I mean, honest to God, there's only like 3 people I can think of that are like staunch conservatives when it comes to this kind of stuff, like Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, and that's about where the list ends, right?
Yeah, half of those guys are all going to run for the presidency, and so they have exactly. More of an interest even than normal to be on the right side of this. So this is what's happening. These guys, I mean, this is the worst of the worst. Your Romneys, your Susan Collinses, your Mitch McConnells. And so if you're a gun owner in Iowa, one of the states we work in a lot, or Missouri, or Wyoming, or Ohio, or North Carolina, you got to think about this. These are the people that tell us how strong they are on it when it comes to our gun rights. They're never going to betray us. And they stab you right in the back last night.
Well, I know that all the people watching this video right now, you guys wouldn't go out and vote to do this, right? You would not relinquish the filibuster to the Democrats. Everybody watching, the Republican base, would never even dream about doing something like that. These Republicans are the only peaceful remedy that we have to fight back against this radical Senate Democrat left or against the radical left. When the Republicans themselves, who are the party of opposition right now to the Democrats, when they don't do it, when they don't do that job, they are cutting off all of our ability to resist this stuff. It's like the height of being a Benedict Arnold. It's what you're supposed to do. They are the entity that has the lawful authority to fight back against this stuff. And they wonder why people in the Republican cheap seats back home in their districts in Mitchell, South Dakota, they wonder why the anger that everybody feels right now is just getting ratcheted up because we can't do anything. We elect these people to do those things for us because we can't. And when they don't, God damn them.
Yeah. It's political incest. It's incest. These people they're making these incestuous deals with the left, and they're just betraying us. And like you said, Chris, this is the only remedy that we have, for the average American. This is what we do. We call our U.S. Senator a Republican and say, don't you dare do it. Hold the line for us. And of course, their staff is going to say, yep, we got you. We got you. We got you. As John Barrasso is sliding that knife in the rib cage of conservatives in Wyoming, or Joni Ernst in Iowa, or Rob Portman in Ohio. And
right,
it cracks me up. It just cracks me up. Like so many Republicans, Chris, in our states, in the legislature, they hate our guts. And they're always like, oh, you just say so many mean things about Republicans. But this is just not even mean. This is just the gosh dang truth. This is basic level stuff. You took an oath. You promised your state you're going to fight for him, and now you stab him in the back. Screw you and the horse you rode in on.
Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous.
Well, another one of the things that these Republicans will do, and I guess we'll see here very shortly, I guess they already did. One of the things that Republicans specialize in is they love to take procedural votes like this, and I guess we'll see the final vote. Did the final vote on the debt spending already happen?
I think it's
then
done,
last night.
I think it's done. Yeah,
it's done. Well, they love to use this. They love to use this procedure. They'll say, okay, well, we'll just go ahead and vote to suspend the debt ceiling, and then we'll just let the whole body then decide on whether or not we want to go ahead and increase that spending past that. So they basically use procedural votes to get this stuff onto the floor, and then they'll vote against it. All the while knowing that their procedural vote is the actual vote that enabled it to pass. So I'd be very curious to see how many of these 14.
Yeah, that vote last night, Chris, was 10 Republicans on the final passage. So 4 of those Republicans backed off of their procedural vote you're describing. They backed off the filibuster vote, and they were all of a sudden a tough no vote when it came to the actual debt limit.
So you see what they got both sides of this thing here, folks. This is the double dealing bullshit that we absolutely despise. But they voted to suspend the rules on spending, and then they let everybody come in and vote to increase that spending, and then they voted no on it themselves, so they can go back home to their districts. Like John. I don't know. We'll use John.
I'm trying to find the vote, Chris.
People like John Thune can then go back and say, "Oh, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything bad. I voted against raising our spending," all the while knowing that their vote to get rid of that was the very thing stopping that increase in spending in the first place.
And this same treachery, this goes on in state capitals all the time. It's the same thing, whether it's in a committee process or whatever it is. They vote to move a bill forward, and then on the actual floor, they'll pull back and they will sit there. And this is not just U.S. senators. This is your state rep in Ohio, or state senator in South Dakota. They will stand there in the pizza ranch in your hometown, or the local GOP coffee shop, whatever it is. They'll look you in the eye and they'll say, "I've got your back. Here's my vote on X bill." They'll lie straight to our face and try and tell you what they did, knowing they're the ones who made it all happen in the first place. It's disgusting. Steve says these people are traitors. You doggone right they are. And so here's how this is going to work now going forward. I can assure you that last night, as this whole thing was going down. I can assure you that every town for gun safety and Michael Bloomberg's chief handlers, all the Gabby Giffords crowd, the Shannon Watts, all these people,
as we like to call them, the red shirt radical lion commie mommy brigade. So
yeah, they're on a texting thread last night. I guarantee it. Maybe we're on it. Who knows? Maybe we have a mole. Who knows? Maybe Shannon Watts better check. They're on a texting thread last night, and they're saying, well, by God, if they can suspend the filibuster temporarily to raise the debt limit, then we're going to have them do that now as well for us. And we're going to pass a national gun owner registry, and we're going to take away their AR-15s. That has happened. Those talks, I guarantee those talks are happening now this morning in D.C. because all the rest of these folks who want to have their issues passed in D.C., they watched what happened here, and now they're going to Joe Biden. They're going to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer saying, now do it for us.
Right.
Now do it for us.
Right.
And here's how this is going to work. Okay, this is how it would work. Because it's an election year. We're 20 days left in 2021. Next year is an election year. And those are already on the horizon very clearly for those who are up for re-election. So many of them are going to be afraid to vote, the Republicans, that is, be afraid to vote for a gun control bill. They will do what Chris just explained. Let's say we have a mass shooting. Let's say, God forbid, we have a mass shooting in Texas. Seems to happen a lot in Texas. Let's say it happens in Texas in 2022. Here's what they would do. They would go to Mitch McConnell. This is Chuck Schumer and company, and then say, hey, man, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. You get me 6 or 8 or 10 or 14 Republicans to vote to temporarily suspend the filibuster. I got 50 votes in our conference to pass AR-15 bans, right? I just need 1 or 2 Republicans from your conference to vote yes. That's how it's going to work, man. They're going to get a Roy Blunt.
Or maybe I won't even need any of your Republicans to actually vote for it on the floor. They just need to suspend this rule for us for a few minutes while we have this vote. We can bring Kamala Harris in to break the tie. And you guys get to all go back to your districts and say, I voted against universal background checks, universal gun registry. I voted against banning the AR-15. Bullshit, you did. You guys are the ones who voted to suspend the filibuster.
And all they have to do to get this bipartisan support that they crave so badly for cover at election time is to get 1 or 2 Republicans to join over to help them out and give them bipartisan cover. So you got a Roy Blunt, who's a piece of trash, not up for re-election. You got Tom Tillis, piece of trash, not up for re-election. A couple of these guys comes
Rob
over.
Portman, Richard Burr.
Anybody who's retiring, who's not trying to run for president, and those are 2 very different criteria, could sit there and just be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm done. I don't care anymore. And it's that easy. It's that easy. And it's been made that easy because of what we saw last night, because now the filibuster has been stabbed in the neck and she's bleeding. She's bleeding. It's still there. It's still standing. But they did it to it last night. They destroyed it last night already. And now it just takes one more big issue to come along, like gun control, and be like, yeah, well, we did it. We did it before. We did it before. We can do it again now. And if you take the national fervor that comes after a mass shooting, does anybody watching here right now believe the GOP is going to stand there and say, oh no, we're not going to kill a filibuster ever again? Absolutely not. No. Absolutely not.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, once you introduce this, and here's another thing that they're doing, they're taking the drive for this issue out of the entire election season as well. I mean, think back to 2020, 2016. One of the major talking points from President Trump when he was running was, yes, please reelect me, because if we don't, and reelect a Senate Republican majority, because if we don't, the Democrats are going to end the filibuster. Well, now it just takes the total steam out of that, because now we know, well, already 14 of these U.S. senators have already voted to temporarily suspend. If you can temporarily suspend the filibuster every time you need to, there is no threat of filibuster anymore.
Right.
They're just taking everything away from the grassroots who elected them in the first place. It really bothers me about Joni Ernst, because like you said, Aaron, I used to sit 1 row behind and about 4 chairs down from her. And when she was running for the U.S. Senate, what year did she start? Like 2014?
Well, she got reelected in 2016 and in 2020. So 4 years, 6 years prior to that, 2014.
6 years before that then. Yeah, 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
She ran all these ads talking about how she was going to go to Washington, D.C. and make them squeal. She talked about how she grew up on a farm castrating hogs, and she knows how to go to. Has she ever once made anybody squeal for the right reasons? I mean, she made Chuck Schumer squeal with delight last night. Was that the kind of squealing that she was talking about? What the freaking heck is going on here?
It's all designed. I mean, someone's asking about Barrasso. If you're getting tuned in, guys, very quickly, the 14 members who screwed us over last night, Barrasso was one of them for James, who's asking. But John Thune, Mitch McConnell, John Barrasso, Roger Wicker, Shelley Moore, Susan Collins, Roy Blunt, Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, Richard Burr, Joni Ernst, John Cornyn, Mitt Romney, and Rob Portman are the 14 who screwed us over last night. But what makes me just boil, besides what we've discussed here right now, is just, again, they're trying to take us for fools. They're trying to, they want to look at an Iowan, from Davenport or from Red Oak, her hometown, or a gun owner in Mitchell, South Dakota, or Bethany, Missouri, or all these states. And they tell themselves, and their staffers tell them this. They're like, look, Joni, these people are hillbillies. They don't know what's going on in D.C. They're not up. They don't know what the filibuster means. They don't know what Senate tradition is all about. They're too stupid to understand what this means. They're going to see a headline on CNN, and they're going to say, that's fake news. Joni would never do this to me. And they're literally preying on our trust. They're preying on our goodwill, and they're trying to look you in the eye and say that, I've never betrayed you, when they know in their soul that it's exactly what they did. So it's just, the policy sucks, the politics suck, but the personal betrayal from someone like Joni Ernst, from a Barrasso, from a Tillis, from a Portman, from a Blunt, the personal betrayal against conservatives is what I think we should all remember, because this is devious stuff. Because when they fly home on the weekend and they fly back into Iowa or all their states, they fly home, they tell themselves, those folks are too dumb. They're never going to pick up.
People like Joni Ernst should be greeted at the Des Moines airport, which is probably the airport that she flies into, with thousands of people along the side of the road with signs yelling shame at her.
Yes.
Shame, because what they've done is totally shameful. These people should not be greeted with any kind of respect anymore, because they have shown the people who trusted them with their vote the ultimate sign of disrespect.
Trusted them with our freedoms too. I mean, we didn't vote for you people.
Yeah.
We voted to empower you to hold the line against Biden's tyranny. Again, Biden's not the one driving it. The guy's an addle-brained, old perv. His machine, his handlers, and the people in Congress are the ones who are trying to destroy our freedom. And we entrusted you not just with our vote, but to hold the line for our freedom. And not just for my freedom, for my children's freedom, because that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in our day is going to happen. We inherited freedom. We have enjoyed freedom. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about my grandkids. All of us are worried about our grandkids. And so for these people that do this and then come home to their states and say, absolutely, I'm holding the line for you, it is disgusting stuff. If you're getting tuned in late here, guys, again, what happened last night was the filibuster was savagely attacked in the Senate by Republicans who voted to raise the debt limit. And that's a horrible vote in and of itself. But what happened then now is there's been a terminal wound applied to the filibuster. And the filibuster has always required a 60-vote majority to advance legislation, not 51, a simple majority, but 60. And as long as we had the filibuster, we have a strong chance of saving our nation. And last night, when those 14 Republicans voted against the filibuster, they're setting a precedent now that can be used by the gun grabbers. And I'm sure it's already being talked about right now in D.C. this morning, how they can do it too. They can suspend the filibuster, pass H.R. 8 with 51 votes. That's their agenda. So, folks, we have given you the contact phone numbers here for the switchboard. Call your senators. Call Joni Ernst. Call Blunt. Call Portman. Call Barrasso. Call Tillis. Call them and say what you did here was inexcusable, and I'm not going to forget it. I called Joni Ernst's office a little bit ago. She didn't answer her cell phone number when I called it, so I had to call her office. And they're like, well, yes, the senator has not yet put out a statement on her vote last night. And I'm like, yeah, you think?
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, no kidding. They have to hear from you. Look, this stuff only gets worse if we don't call them.
Yeah.
It only gets worse. So some people are asking, well, I'm not going to bother to call Roy Blunt. He's getting out of office. Look, call them. Look, people like Roy Blunt, people like Rob Portman, people like Tom Tillis, I guarantee you in almost every case, there is some other aspiration in the background. We know for a fact Portman wants to run for president. We know that. That's no secret. But it's not just that. People like Roy Blunt. There's always a son or a grandson they want to get in office. There's always a friend they want to endorse. Make sure they know that their name will be toxic trash if they continue to attack our freedoms. So whether retiring or not, give them a call, tell them what you think, and share our video, because this is going to happen again and again and again unless we stop it and stop it hard.
Yep, that's I think we can wrap it up with that. Again, that phone number is 202-224-3121 for those of you who don't have that plugged into your phones already. I guess, Aaron, one other thing I'll mention here at the end is it really highlights the need for the states to follow up with this kind of stuff and pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act in any state other than Missouri, which has already done this. But it just highlights how super important it is for states to be passing this legislation that would essentially say, you know what, screw you, federal gun control laws. You know, now that we know that you guys can suspend the filibuster anytime you want to and pass your gun control, we need to put the state in between the federal gun control and the rights of the individual, which is why in all the states that you're watching this on right now, we are pushing so very hard to get that exact legislation passed. So yes, please make those phone calls.
Our freedoms are protected by lots of different layers. We want all of these layers to be working at all times. Our state legislatures, our U.S. Congress, and the people, more than anything else, the people, to keep the pressure on these spineless cowards who so often betray us. We have all these different layers. They all have to work together. Help keep putting the pressure on all of them. All of them. We can't let up.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for
share our video. Yeah, share it far and wide. Help us get the word out there. Watch your email for more updates on this. We'll keep you informed.
Thanks a lot, guys.